Yeah, yeah.
Right? Or you get.
We're live.
You have something there under a little bit less session. They just do like, and a lot of times they're starting to move, it used to be like 7 o'clock time, but they're starting a lot of 6 o'clock and 5:30. Yeah. 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 Yes. They started to kind of do that thing in the time of a slower discussion and stuff, but a lot of times now it seems to be the other way. There's like just have one meeting and then six, 7, or 5. Yeah, 5:30 is the early one, but it's like, but then that gives them time to have some discussion.
Yeah.
That's all up to them to decide.
Yeah.
Yeah. I realized you guys were the only cities to study sessions, so I figured out. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Yeah. I don't want to, we have to choose a 3-hour meeting. It's like 10:30.
Good thing I live here now.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna have to drive.
Yeah.
Where do you guys live? Yeah.
I live in West Yakima, so 20 minutes back to the office, another half hour after that. So.
Oh, wow.
Hard to go to a lot of council. So this honestly is some that are like 7 o'clock, it's a couple hours ride back. Yeah, Georgia's 7 o'clock. Each board is 7 o'clock. But yeah, it's all the round. Like all the like one way.
Yeah. It's like we're so want her help, they can look up.
Workable budget, Larry. lot of stuff to go through when you're inheriting kind of a mess. Respectfully, I know it's a mess.
Always a good job on your part.
Thank you.
You explain it in layman's terms, so even I can understand it.
Yeah, well, but it makes sense. It's certainly not a good situation.
It's unfortunate.
Yep. Yeah.
I did have a question on that. What type of equipment do they use to scan the topography? You know, like to, do they use like some kind of depth finder?
Honestly, they look at the records. Every time you drill a well, you generate a well. You have to record what you're drilling. And file out and say, they're designing it. They go all of those wells will go by. It's like, oh yeah, they're common tracks. It's about like what did everybody else drill in this area? It's unfortunate. It'd be cool if we had something like that. That would be, yeah.
It's live already.
We're gonna go ahead and get the city council meeting started for Tuesday, November 14th, 2023 at 7:05 p.m. If I can get everyone to stand for the pledge of allegiance.
The United States of America, to the republic which is stands
Moment of silence, please. All right, you want to go ahead and start roll call?
Councilmember Diana, Councilmember Antonio, Councilmember Ann,
Here.
Councilmember Vera, Councilmember Arturo.
I have a motion by Diane,
Second motion.
second by Antonia. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. We're going to go ahead and go on to the consent agenda. The approval for study session minutes for the 24th. We'll need an approval for that. For the consent agenda, please. A motion by Diane. A
second the motion.
Second by Ann, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and go on to public hearing for 708. So the review of the tax levy increase for the 2024. So we talked about this at the 6 o'clock meeting. So Larry, you want to give us a little information on this?
So this is a tax levy that occurs annually. It's a 1% levy to increase taxes on property in the city of Mapton. The taxes that are received are spent on city items that need to be addressed, such as police, administrative, city parks, cemetery, sewer, water, etc. It's pretty standard. All cities usually just go ahead and approve it, the 1% annually. If the population decides that they want to increase it, then it requires a vote by a standard majority population to increase it above the 1%.
Going 1% for the year 2024. If that gets passed to the council. So if I can, if anybody has any questions? No. Okay. Can I get a motion for the review of the tax levy increase for 2024 to 1%? I have a motion by Diane,
Second the motion.
second by Ann. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. So we're going to go ahead and end that at 7:10. So now we're going to go ahead and do a public hearing start time at 7:10 for the preliminary budget for 2024.
I have a binder here. The council each has a binder. Not going to go through every section because a lot of it is information like explanation of our accounting standards and glossary and our current staff structure and things of that nature. I do want to refer to the letter to the mayor and council members. I'm going to go ahead and read this for the public. This is the proposed 2024 preliminary budget for the city of Mapton. Due to several mitigating factors, this preliminary budget is subject to change. Factors include a high turnover rate for the city of Mapton in 2022 and 2023. 2023 budget was not passed in 2022, resulting in imbalances. There were findings of inadequate record keeping in previous years that had increased errors and prevented proper accounting practices. And part of that were that bank reconciliations, invoices, and receipts were not processed on time or at all in some cases by the previous administration. And they are creating challenges to calculating accurate figures. The city of Mapton is always going to be as conservative as possible when estimating revenues for sales and utility tax to give the city the best chance of success. The total projected revenue for the city's general fund is estimated at $620,333 for 2024. This may or may not include ARPA money that we already received, and we are in the process of accounting for this money, but we are trying not to plan with it because it is not a resource that is going to be in effect long term. We do have a certain period of time that we have to use it by, so we're keeping an eye on that. The primary sources for the general fund are taxes that are put on other funds, such as When you get your water bill, you'll see charge for services on there. That's a tax that is incurred for utilities like phone, power, garbage, and through licensing, business license, building permits, dog licenses, the property tax levy, which we just mentioned, which is a standard 1%. And that equals the property tax levy was $197,100 in revenue that the city will receive from the tax levy and will be spent on fixing issues with the city and just administrative things that the city needs. The general fund, it pays for services including police, fire, administration, city parks, and supplements cemetery, street, and sewer funds. Those funds are actually currently operating at a loss. There's a lot to be done with the limited resources that a city this size has. Expenditures for the general fund in 2024 are estimated at 1.1 million. These estimates reflect the city's effort to provide essential services and focus on correcting deficits in the street, sewer, and garbage funds. The city is projected to spend assets from the ARPA fund to offset expenditures, as well as purchase key equipment. To do this, the budget reflects the following priorities. We need to have proactive planning for equipment replacement, such as the computer systems that we currently use at City Hall and the police department. Several of those computers will reach end of life at the end of this year, which means they will no longer be supported for updates. Will be prone to attempts by hackers or cyber threats. So we need to get those systems updated. And we had previously mentioned the cost of that was about $1,300 per unit, and we need a minimum of 5 units upgraded. We also have to account for increased training and cross utilization of existing staff, as well as forecasting for employee compensation programs and various other things that are included. That being said, city staff are doing everything to prepare for Mapton's growth. We have seen the first franchise store in Mapton's history and a park and ride for our citizens to utilize. We have already seen an increase in revenue from building permits because of the booming house market, and expect prospects of this, as well as other exciting changes in 2024. These changes are just the start of the progress the city has been needing for quite some time. There is much more hard work in the future, but luckily we have a good team dedicated to our city's success. Do I have any questions on any of that? Where it goes?
Yes.
Which money? Well, so certain monies, like monies that are grant funded, have to be spent on that particular item, like the solar panel project that we had at the wastewater treatment plant. When we got money for that project, that money has to be specifically spent on construction, engineering costs for the solar panels, surveying, all that kind of stuff. We can't use it for something else. So whenever we have a project that's based on grants, we have to consider that first. Other monies, like money that we received and spent during the events that we hosted. If you look, I can show you that we didn't make big money or lose big money. It was pretty much zero sum on those. So what we received, we spent. There's other funds that we get from the state remittance taxes. Those can be used for various items, you know, in the city, from anything from like street repair to, you know, what have you, a new sign somewhere. Those taxes we receive on a regular basis and are tracked. And then we, you know, of course, there's the revenue from utilities. That all goes back into the city. It's all public funds, so in and out.
Barry, you guys. When you guys come up with the budget,
Mhm.
you guys prioritize on what's gonna get done first, or do you guys just kind of wing money out left and right? Whatever you wanna do.
No, we prioritize, like I said, I just read that to you, actually.
Yeah,
So there are priorities. The computer systems are a priority. Without proper systems with proper software on them, we're leaving ourselves open to attack from cyber threats, cyber criminals, which could actually affect you, a public citizen. You have records here at City Hall that could have proprietary or personal information. You don't want that getting out to anybody. So we have to make sure that those systems are protected. So that's a priority.
that would be a major priority. I would
Yes.
think, Yeah,
So that's an example.
first and most, yeah, that would be a priority.
Yeah.
And then everything else is just kind of like budgeted out depending on what needs to get done.
Yeah, we try to plan for, we try to forecast and plan looking forward and trying to see known things that are going to come up, like, if we know something about water system type things, we know that's a super high priority for the public, and so we're going to throw resources on that when we can, if it's allowed, depending on if it's a grant loan, what type of things. Loans are another priority. We do have several loans. Those have to be paid. Otherwise, we incur a lot of charges. And then we have priorities such as taxes to the federal government. That's something that you don't mess around with. It has to be paid. This was one of the things that I found when I came on in April, was that they were delinquent 1.5 years on federal taxes. So I caught those taxes up, and we are now caught up. Excise taxes are another thing that we have to make sure are paid on a timely basis, monthly. These are all things that in those cases, we're not getting money back. We're just putting money out because they're taxes. So unfortunately, that's just part of doing business.
This is one of the things that I find kind of bothering some in a way, is that if the public would know or have some type of access to this information, I think things would be a lot more calmer than they are, because the first thing the public is wanting to know is, where's the money? Well, the money gets dispersed to different areas. They need to understand that, because that's what I'm saying, because we have a pot of money and it's coming from different directions. And it all goes into the queue. Then it gets dispersed to different departments or different projects or whatever. But the public only sees the money in one lump sum. And the first thing they want to know is, where's the money going? Or what happened to that money? Well, they need to understand that that money is being used for certain things. And I think once the public is aware of that, maybe they'll look at it from a different perspective.
So the money goes into general fund.
Mhm.
And so the police department, this has been a thing, before I became mayor, I was always questioning it, about why the police department don't have a police department fund. Other cities do, but Napton don't. They've always, taken the money out of the general fund for the police department. So what we're trying to do is get a fund for, cemetery has a fund, public works has a fund, there's different, itemized lines. But the police department doesn't have a fund. So we're trying to get that fund back for the police department. Because there's a cemetery fund, and how come there's not a police department fund? Those are the things that we're trying to work out. We want everybody to have their own money, so that way they have their own budget, and the chief doesn't have to come and ask, Larry, hey, well, how much do I have to spend? And he can look at his monies and say, okay, well, I have this much money and this is what I want to purchase. And okay, well, if you have it in your fund, well, we can do it,
And I would think that would be a priority. Because
Exactly.
they're the ones that are protecting the town.
Exactly.
It's their job to make sure that everybody here is still safe. I would think that would be a priority for them to have their own budget, or at least be able to come up with a budget submit it to the council and see if it's within the lump sum of money to where it could be budgeted out to their
And
department.
that's been a thing that I've been fighting for years. How come they've never had their own police fund?
Mhm.
This has been going on, I want to say before it. I'm correct that there's never been a police fund, you know, and I'm like, hey, where's their money? You know, so last year, we did spend on the police department. I know we had Officer Bureau, back then was Officer, he's now Sergeant. So he was here for 8 months by himself. And, when I came on, he didn't have a lot of things that he needed. And I'm like, well, why? He's like, I've never been asked. He goes, I know there was ARPA money, but he was never entitled to any of that ARPA money, which that should have been a priority for the police department. So, when we brought on, Chief Garcia, luckily both of them together, they knew Yakima County and Tri-Cities and were able to work together and get vehicles for the city. And we did, we didn't pay more than what, 2,500 per vehicle, correct? And then we paid the license and stuff, so it came out to about roughly,
18,000 for all 4 vehicles, fully outfitted, signs or, the decals.
yeah, so we got 4 cars for that, you know, our Impalas that we were using, they were what? Old, you know, they were outdated, you know, I believe. You got stranded at one point, right? You had to have someone come and help you start your vehicle, you know, so we needed stuff like that. It had been neglected, you know, and so that was my priority when I came in. My first 90 days, I had set a goal to hire police officers. But the sergeant had come to me and told me about Chief Garcia, and I said, well, set it up. Let's talk to him. You know, we brought him on, and he saw our police department and how bad it was. And I mean, people who live here in Mapping and have lived here a long time know it was down to the ground. So now we're getting it back. We have our police force, we have new vehicles, and we've done what we could to help them to where they are right now. Do they have a budget by themselves yet? No, they do not. And that's something we're still gonna, work on. But the chief and Larry, they keep in contact about the spending of the money. If anything is over budget, of course, we have to bring it, to council.
What is the difference between that art budget and the regular?
The ARPA, that's the COVID money that was given twice. So yeah, it was a COVID. Yeah. So they got the first half, I want to say in 2021 or 2020, the first ARPA money came to the city. And then we received ARPA money last year in 2022, which I have not touched yet. We still have that money there.
Is that a separate budget?
That's separate money. Yeah, we can only use it for certain things, but I've reached out to other mayors, so I need to find out a little bit more, but that is money that was given to us, separately. So that is not in our general fund account, if I'm correct.
And if you don't want me to ask me, how much was that?
I don't know the lump sum. Larry, do you know the lump sum
319,000.
for the two?
No, the first one and the second one, each one was 319.
And that money sits in an account just for in case of emergencies or?
Well, no, we have to use it by a certain date. I think it's 2025. I'm correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be used. So the past mayor, she used it, her part on what she wanted to and what they needed. And so we got it last year. I still haven't touched it yet. I think something did come out of there. I don't know why, but we're going to be reimbursed.
The flat cameras.
Yeah. But
And if it doesn't get used, but it goes back?
Yep.
So, but we are going to use it. Right now we're trying to figure out, what we're going to do. And once we do, we'll let the council know. We'll bring it to council. We'll let the public know. But for the most part, right now, we're just, trying to figure out what is priority. Because, I mean, people think it's a lot of money, but in reality, it's going to go fast. So.
Yeah. And to what you were saying, Ruben, part of my plan as the treasurer and clerk is to get this data to the public. So we're looking at what it's going to cost us to take back our website because it's currently being managed by a third party. And I know it's gonna be about $3,000 or $4,000 just to get it back and manage it in home. And then once we do that, we can publish. I'm a web programmer. I come from I worked for Boeing for 12 years, and so I'm well aware how to do a website, and
On your own program.
I can design our own website and make it so that it's much easier to use and utilize, and the budget will be there where you guys can click on it and see it, just like other cities. Currently, we don't have control of the website, and as I stated, we're working on a preliminary budget. So once the budget is finalized and approved, it'll be posted on the website, and then you'll be able to see all.
We're trying to work on the billing system, but I want to say last year we signed another agreement with a third party that it had to go through council. So we're trying to get back our billing so we can do in-house. So I know there's been a lot of, issues with the billing, people getting late bills, but we get our bills to them on time. It's them that are not getting their bills out to the public, to the community. So we're trying to get the billing back like it used to be, because they used to come on the little postcards. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And you take the little top, the little end off, and you bring just a certain part. So we want to get the billing back here into the city, so we don't have to be paying a third party. It would save the city money, and we don't have to, because we are paying for an envelope, we're paying for the, the stamp, and we're paying for the paper that goes inside it, where we can just do the postcard here, and that's it. Of course, they're going to go out to Spokane and come back to Mountain, but it's better than having a third party because we're paying.
That was my next question, is why do we have to go to a third party? All it's doing is costing them after. It's costing the city money.
That was in effect
You know,
before I
there's money
came
that
on.
you said you used for something else.
That was-
Within Mountain itself.
Yeah, and that was something that was before I came on, and that was something that I questioned too. I mean, there's a lot of things that I want to try to keep here, like, everyone's upset about the garbage fees. Okay, well, now we're gonna come back with that. We're gonna have Yakima start billing the customers. We're gonna bring that to council where that'll be off the water bill, but now you're gonna have to get a bill from Yakima County Waste and pay your bill up there with them, because that's not gonna be on your water bill no more.
The thing that really sticks is that we're having to pay taxes on everything. We're paying taxes on the water, we're paying taxes on the garbage, we're paying taxes on the sewer. I mean, everything's being taxed.
Well, and
In
reality, Ruben, we're not paying a lot of tax. Yeah, but
And that's where the dollar amounts add up.
if you look, and we've brought in a bill of Grandview pays ambulance fees, sewer fees, they pay garbage fees, water fees. And there's one more fee, there was like 6, and their bill totaled $309. So we're not paying ambulance fees. I mean, no, the city's not charging anybody for any of that, which it should be.
But the difference there, Rachel, is that in Grandview, more than half the town, more than half the city of Grandview is on irrigation water. So that's an annual fee.
But they still have to pay it all.
Every month.
They still
They
pay
don't get
water.
taxed on it every month.
Yeah, no, they do.
Right?
Yeah, they do.
I can interject. I lived in Grandview, and every month we had to pay Sunnyside irrigation for the irrigation. Pardon? Yeah. When I was living in Grandview, we had to pay it every month. And we were at the end of the line, so we never got any irrigation, but we had to pay it. It was monthly.
So we don't have it as bad as other cities, and it's just about educating the community as well. When they come in and say, my bill's $209, my water bill's $209. No, your water bill's not $209. Your water bill's $89. But you have all these fees, so it adds up, and people have to understand that little bit of money, that's coming back into the community. We use it for streets, we use it for parks, we stretch it and it doesn't go very far, but there's not very many houses here. Once we start getting more houses built, and I remember this back on Mario, and when I came to a meeting one day, he's like, these water rates will go down when we get more housing. But until we get more housing, our water rates will not go down. So there is two big, developments, if I'm correct, that want to come in, right, Jamin?
I think there are a variety of.
Yeah, so there's like
Yeah.
62 to 67 homes that want to come in. You know, but we need to fix the water situation. You know,
Is that really gonna happen?
well, we have their plans already, right, Yuli? Plans? We're in the process, and they've been in the process since last year. You know, we have one wanting to go down on South, and the other one would be or on South Street this way, and the other one would be going down was it High School Road? Yeah. So, yeah, we do have two developments that are wanting to come in. They're in the process right now. But like we tell everybody, it's a process, you know, they want things to happen quick, and we have to work with, you know.
Well, that'll be beneficial for the people that live within that area, because it's gonna, the value of property value is gonna go up just because of that. Everybody else, the property value is gonna stay the same, or it's gonna drop year by
No.
year.
That's not true, Ruben. And this is what I always tell people, when we had our code enforcer, when he was out enforcing code, people were upset because they didn't want to clean up their mess. Well, they don't want to clean it up because they don't want the value of their property to go up, but yet your house can be elaborate and you're gonna live next to
Well,
two
yeah.
people that
Yeah.
that don't have their house nice, so that's gonna hurt you.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not about just, we have to teach the community, hey, we need you to clean up your yard. This is an ordinance. This isn't my rule. This is an ordinance. You cannot have an RV in your yard and somebody living in it. You cannot have all these junk cars around your house because it's not acceptable, because it's an ordinance. So we're trying to tell the people to, hey, clean up. And then what do? They come in and they complain. They don't like it. Well, that's not helping the property owner that has the home. That's killing your value of your home.
I'm like, the way I see it myself, I'm only speaking for myself. If I'd rather pay a little bit more taxes on my property, as long as my property value goes up. Because at the end of the day, you want to reap the rewards. If you don't keep it tidy, then you're losing out. And the reason people don't want to keep it tidy is because they don't want to pay any more taxes than they have.
Exactly. And if you want to sell your
But you
house,
see
you're
the-
not going to be able to sell it. It's not going to be able to sell for the value.
That's true. I mean,
So, I mean,
it's just common
we
sense.
have to, that's I'm telling you, it's about educating the community. It's not something that I'm doing because they say, oh, you're just being mean, you want to throw people out. No, these are ordinances. And Ruben, you've lived here in Hampton for a long time. I know what this community used to look like. And it does not look nothing like what it looked
Well, it
like.
does.
And that's why we need to get it back up to what it once was. And it's not me, it's ordinances that are in the book, and we need to learn to follow them. It hasn't been done in years, for many years. And now that I'm doing it, nobody likes it. But I have a home here. I've built 2 homes here already. My mother lives here, my grandmother lives here, my son lives here. I have 5 generations living here in Mapton. You think I don't want better for my grandchildren? My grandmother, my mom, myself, my son. This is the thing that people don't understand. If I could fix this whole water issue, I'd do it in a snap of a finger. But it's not that easy. That's why we have the professionals here to talk about that. So for people saying, oh, you don't want to do anything, no. I have my family living here. I don't want my grandmother having to, drink or taste the water. Although she does, she drinks it, we were raised on it, the manguera, drinking out of the manguera. So people have to understand and realize that, things that are being done here in Mountain right now, we're going in the right direction. I think everything's going good. People just have to understand everything's ordinance, policy, and procedure.
See, I don't know if you guys see it, or if anybody here sees it. But I saw it right from the get-go, right from the moment I started talking. If you come in here and act civil and speak with an open mind and let your comments be heard and get answers in return, then things will work out great. But when nobody wants to answer questions or nobody wants to answer questions to the questions that the people are asking, then it turns into a shit show.
So,
I hate to say it like that, but that's
and
exactly
I
what it
understand,
turns
but let
into.
me tell you,
So because as of right now, the past 15 minutes I've been talking, it's been civil.
yes,
Why can't it be like that all the time?
because when people stand at that podium, they don't approach me like that. That's why. And when they approach me like that, I'm going to tell you,
Yeah, go ahead.
Ruben, we as council and mayor, we do not have to answer the public.
Then I understand that.
So if you want answers, and if you're gonna respect me, and not just because I'm a mayor, even before, you respect. If you want respect, you gotta give it. So if someone's gonna stand at that podium and they're gonna attack me, don't expect me to answer. And I've been attacked several times. So, that'll be up to me if I want to answer. Our council is not supposed to be answering any questions, and that is in policy and procedure book.
But it's good. It's good to have answers.
And I get it, but sometimes we can't answer it because we have to make sure we're covering our tracks as well. We can't just count, answer to answer because you want to hear it.
I will say this. Like I say, I'm speaking for myself. I don't know how everybody else looks at it, but I'm speaking for myself. As soon as I started talking, the first thing I thought was, my goddamn 2 minutes is gonna be a quick. But you know what? I'm thankful that it's gone beyond 2 minutes.
Well, this is public hearing, that's why.
Okay.
But once you get to that podium, it's not, it's
Oh,
2 minutes.
All right, all right.
So,
I'm not,
okay.
I'm not setting up that point.
Okay,
All right, well, thanks a lot.
yeah, and then when you want to come into City Hall, come in and talk to me. If I'm not there, just tell Yuli or one of the girls, hey, I want to talk to Rachel. And I'll call you. I'm pretty good about calling people back. Okay? All right, Larry. Wanna go ahead?
All right, so I just want to end with the actual figures for the preliminary budget. So we are estimating that in January of 2024, our overall cash budget is going to be, our starting cash on hand is 1.6 million roughly. Our estimated revenue throughout the year of 2024 is 2.5 million, and our estimated expenditures in 2024 is 2.9 million. So expenditures exceed revenues. However, we have a starting balance that should pad that. So with that being said, we estimate December 31st, 2024 ending balance to be $1,232,015 remaining at the end of 2024.
What is the fiscal year? Every 6 months?
January 1st through December 31st.
That's the fiscal year.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions?
Can I touch on the PE? As far as for the police department, when I first started here a year and a half ago, this March will be 2 years. When I first got here, the thing is that we want to get rid of graffiti. I think we've done a good job on that. The other thing is I was driving the 2008 Impala, one of the ones that we had when I first got here. So I started looking around. I was able to locate through the Yakima Sheriff's Department and Benton County Sheriff's Department, reached out to them, and I found some vehicles for a decent price. I used to work at doing signs before I became a police officer, so I did my own police vehicles. So I saved the city some money there. And when I took the job, I was retired for a year and a half. Didn't have to come back to work. I came to work because I wanted to. I felt I still had it in me. Law enforcement was still in my blood, so I wanted to come back and try to help Mapton. I worked at Granger for 6 years, so I thought it was a comparable city in size, and so I got the vehicles. Well, the city got the vehicles, not me. The city got the vehicles. The other thing I wanted to do is we had that Dodge Charger. Everybody saw the Dodge Charger. Well, that fuel was, we were going through fuel like daily on that thing. So my big thing was we got to get rid of that vehicle. We got the 4 vehicles that we have now, and I looked at the numbers last week. I think well, let me stop real quick. The other thing I noticed is we would put gas at, it was a Chevron, I believe, right down the road over here. And it was about 60 cents a gallon. And so I asked the mayor, why are we putting gas here? The fuel is just killing, especially with the gas price the way it was. So mayor looked into it, and we eventually were able to go to Wheelers, which is down the road. And to date, if you compare it to last year, with 4 vehicles and more officers, we're still $10,000 ahead in fuel, where we didn't have, we've spent less and with more vehicles out there. Laptops were donated to us. They were about $1,800 per laptop for the patrol cars that were given to us from the Yakima Sheriff's Department. They were up and running. They provided all the software, everything that needed to be on that laptop for us to use. So we saved $1,800 per vehicle. One of them was already here when I first arrived, so we only had to buy 3 out of 4, and those are going to be good for another 4 or 5 years probably. The vehicles are still running good. We had one little issue with one, but it was fixed and it runs great again. So I don't foresee, the tires are all good. I don't foresee any major spending on vehicles. So that'll hold us for a couple of years. So we sold the Dodge Charger. I believe we either got 7,300 or 7,400. That went back into the general fund. So we also saved money there. And once again, the vehicles costed probably about 18,000. So we're way ahead there. And from one vehicle, we got 7,400 back, but in the general fund, and then we spent on 4 vehicles, 18,000. So we're doing good for the next few years. As far as anything in the police department, we don't have anything to spend on other than our 4 computers that are in the PD that are very old. As Larry said, I think it's the same as what's going on at City Hall. So that's something that's a high priority for us. I don't see anything else that we're going to be spending money on other than the wages for the police officers. I don't foresee anything major coming up. The other thing was for National Night Out. The last couple of years we've had the budget was for 2,500 to spend on the National Night Out. We have gone around to the dairies, and there's a couple local dairies. They don't want us to use their name. I'm very thankful that they donated some money. So this last year we only spent $200 out of they donated a couple $1,000. So this next year I anticipate same thing, they're going to donate. So that's not going to cost anything from there. So for the PD, I think we're pretty much set, other than the wages, I think is the only thing that's going to come up. Anybody have questions for the PD? So we operate from the general fund. Everything is paid for by the general fund. So the car that was sold goes right back into the general fund, where the money comes from. We don't have our own separate fund. We would love to have one because then we can see where our money is. Right now, we don't see it. So.
$1,700 from selling that vehicle goes right back into the department.
Right, that's the idea. That's why it would be nice to have that fund that's for the PD alone, but right now we don't have that, so.
And we just have to keep track of it as $7,300, Larry, that goes to the, to the police department,
Oh, and then one other thing, the only other thing I forgot is when I first got here, bulletproof vest that I'm wearing, it was one that was a used one. They're very expensive. They're probably anywhere from $500 to $1,500 is what they usually cost. This is the same one that was here before I got here. However, it expires like any day. I'm afraid to look at the tag on the back, but we did order some this weekend. We ordered 2. We haven't spent on anybody for new vests. We've used old ones. There's Officer Sullivan's, same thing. His expires any day. So we got 2 for both of us. And I think for both of them, we found 2 of them for about $1,300 is what it costs. And Elle and I, they want to make sure that they're after 5 years, when the warranty's done, then you have to get a new one. Otherwise, if something happens, I get shot, then the city's liable. So the idea is you need to stay on top of that. So they're good for 5 years. So the ones that we just ordered this weekend are going to be good for another 5 years.
And also, I know that when the chief came on, the city police department didn't have very much ammunition, if I'm correct. So they were really low on ammunition, and it's like, how do you run
for practice?
Yeah.
You have to qualify once a year, and then you have to have some practice ammo so you can go out and stay proficient. But that was before I got here. I know you got some, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know there was hardly anything, and you have to stay on top of it. The other thing that's good for the PD is we use other cities. We use Grandview, we use Sunnyside. We actually had Richland Police help, since I used to work over there, helped us during the driving course. So as far as training, we use other departments. When they're training, they tell us you're invited to come and train with us, so it doesn't cost us anything. And we're able to stay on top of our, like qualification, that type of thing. So
I think that you guys are being invited to these trainings and stuff like that, but there's no reason why you guys should be struggling financially for the police department here in Milton. There's no reason that should happen.
But Ruben, it's been going on for years, because I remember we had,
You're putting your life in danger right now with that vest that you wear.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to come in and advocate for the other officers as well, because they had no boots. And I'm like, what the heck are you wearing? They're like, we can't even get boots through the city. That's pretty sad. You work for a city and you can't even get boots, So, and I brought that to council a couple of times as well, So those are the things that we've worked on. Those are things now we are making priority, making sure that everybody in their department has what they need. Mapton has gone too long without anything. Yeah.
You have to spend $1,800, you could have bought two vests by now.
Yeah, and actually they are, he did order them this weekend, I believe, or on Monday.
That'll get us up to where we need to be on the vest. So go ahead.
Yeah, they could have, we just.
Right. It all came from the general fund. Yeah. But
Because at that time, we didn't know what we could use the money on. I just found out at a mayor's meeting not too long ago what we could use the money on, because at first you couldn't just use that money on anything. It had to be on certain things. And it was water at that time, so now it's like we're able to use it and get a little more than what we were when it first came out. I didn't receive it. That wasn't on my clock. The other mayor did. No, she used it all.
So, you're studying or you're talking about learning water and all that.
It is, but that's not enough money to fix the issue. Our water is drinkable. There's nothing wrong with our water. It's drinkable. Okay. Anybody else?
Well, I commend you, Officer Garcia, for doing a good job. Unfortunately, you just don't have the resources to fully staff yourself and fully get the stuff that you need.
right. Well, thank you. The other thing is, luckily, we have a good relationship with Grandview, Sunnyside. They will send an officer over here. We don't work 24 hours. And they will send an officer, Sheriff's Department, or dispatchers will send somebody from State Patrol if they're close by. So luckily, we have a good relationship with them. We have a contract with the Sheriff's Department to where they can locate the closest officer. Our vehicles have a tracker on each vehicle. So the Sheriff's Department, when they dispatch, they can get the closest deputy over here so they can see who's available and get a hold of that department and say, hey, go help Mapton out. So they've been really helpful with us. So we appreciate them helping us. So that makes us, makes our job a little easier in Mapton. So we're pretty lucky that we have that relationship with them and very helpful.
And anything else, Larry, for the preliminary budget?
No.
Okay, so with that, we're going to go ahead and end our public hearing meeting at 7:52. And there is no old business, so we're gonna go ahead and go on to new business. We're gonna have the approval of the water treatment option analysis by GNO. Engineering scope of work. So he did talk to us about this at our 6 o'clock meeting.
Would you like a recap? of
Just,
what we
yeah,
discussed?
real quick.
Yeah. So, the city has had a lot of water complaints over the summer. Historically had water complaints about what we call aesthetic issues, taste, odor, appearance. Special lot of complaints this summer though. So Department of Health, have talked. Department of Ecology has graciously decided to pay for some water sampling for the city to provide an independent sampling of the city sources and distribution system. The key is you do sampling. It says, okay, here's what's in your water. What do you do about it? And so this scope of work is intended to bridge that gap. We would look at the water quality sampling results. From that analysis, my understanding is that some of that sampling happened already. We get the results, we would look at it, prepare a technical report or a technical memo for you guys that says, here's what we're seeing in the water quality sample results. Here are possible solutions to treat it, right? It could be a few different options. It could just be primarily one treatment technology, but we provide a recommended treatment alternative. And then also give you a planning level cost estimate. Say, okay, if you wanted to implement this treatment for your water system, this is the size of facility, planning level, size of facility you would need. Here's the planning level cost. The end goal would be that you would have that document in hand that then you could use to pursue funding. You would most likely need outside funding to be able to pay for that if you decided to move forward. And you could use that document then as a justification to funding agencies. The key is, if you have a problem, you want a funding agency to give you money to do something with it, you have to have a plan. You have to be able to say, here's our problem and here's how we want to solve it. Here's our plan. Here's what we continued the alternatives. Here's what we've come up with. And so the end goal of this technical memo would be something that you can use to look for funding if you so chose.
Right, so if we can get an approval on that. I have a motion. Motion by Diana, second by Ann, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. So now we're going to go ahead and go on to B, wells 7 and 8, an update from GNO.
So again, I talked through this pretty extensively in the study session. Do you want me to recap
Just
our
your
conversation?
basics, yeah.
Okay, so I guess we'll start over. You can see which version you like better for now. The city has pursued drilling the wells 7 and 8, what we call the shallow aquifer. You think about it, there are different buckets of water underground. When you get a water right, you can't just drill it any well and use any bucket of water. Existing wells are for what we call the salt wells, and those are for deeper wells in the fractured basalt rock. However, in the 2016-ish timeframe when the city was planning for its future water needs, the thought was, if you remember, well 6 didn't produce very much water, and so the thought was, well, those deeper basalt aquifers are not. The city decided to purchase shallow water rights. So that's around Mapton, that's roughly the top 130 to 150 feet below ground surface. That's just the rock materials. It's very changeable from location to location. But ultimately, it's just Yakima riverbed, right? It's riverbed materials that have been eroded and mixed over years, and so it's very changeable from location to location. And so that's where, unfortunately, is that in the way the city decided to pursue these wells, it looked at the reasonable hydrogeology, reasonable well production, and our wells. The hope was that you could get 1 to 200 gallons per minute. Lucky and get something higher, or it could be at the other end and be something lower. Ultimately, well 8 was, and they pump tested it just today. The sample results coming in. Fortunately, it has fairly high nitrates, 17 milligrams per liter nitrates in the initial sample results. We still have other sample results coming in, but that initial result isn't good. On top of that, to make this an even more frustrating situation for the city, pump tested that there just really wasn't a lot of water in that aquifer. So unfortunately, it's only about 20 gallons per minute of water that was in that aquifer at that location. At that point, honestly, with that water quality, and a few other water quality indicators that aren't real positive about it, at that level of production, it's probably not worth the money to even put a pump in. And so that's bad news, and it's the good news, if there is any, is that ultimately your contract, or as we discussed in the study session, includes 2 wells. Along was to try to drill and encrypt 2 wells to more water. Decisions working with you guys to try to be cost conscious and build them. Have a second. So, nothing is guaranteed, and especially so we discussed that the next step, deed by grant. It's another bite at the apple. I can't guarantee you'll get water, but if you don't drill it, you certainly won't get water. And so thought is, okay, what can increase our chances? What can we do that we learned from what we learned about the aquifer from the first well that can help us with the second well? The aquifer wasn't in that area. The second well was going to be drilled near well 6. We're now working today. I was having an extended conversation with the hydrogeologists, the experts on this, about moving the next well to be drilled be closer to well 5 to try to move it further away. Like if we get two bites at the apple, the first one wasn't good. Let's move as far away as we can within the approved environmental area, within the context of the city's hydraulics. There are limitations on how your water system is laid out, how the environmental work was done. You can't just move it anywhere. Can we at least move it to, generally it's thought that the water quality of the groundwater in Mapton gets better as you move north and east, closer to the river. So we can't really go north, but we can go east. So if we would work, and this isn't an ongoing discussion, I need to discuss with the hydrogeologists more. If we could switch the location of the next well to be closer to well 5, to get you a more different view of the aquifer. The other thing we would do differently is that this well, given the city's historic issues with sand at well 6, we wanted to make sure that you didn't have sand in this well. And so we were more conservative in trying to protect against sand in this first well. Given that there wasn't much water in the aquifer when you took that approach, the thought would be, okay, in the next well, let's open it up, take some risk of sand production, in the hope that you can capture more water. You may have to deal with a little bit of sand production, but hopefully there will be water there. Ultimately, if the question, I think we talked about in the study session, the burning question is, all right, well, what if that doesn't work, right? And the thing here is you have to take the next right step in these types of circumstances. When something doesn't work, it's a frustrating circumstance, you have to take the next right step. So we believe the next right step would be for the city to proceed with the drilling of the second well. Then once we get that well drilled, you see how much water it produces, you see what the water quality. Hopefully those are good. It's a usable well, and we can proceed to putting a pump in it and equipment in it. If that's not the case, then the city needs to take a step back and say, okay, back in 2016, we decided that the shallow groundwater was the best, most cost-effective direction for us to go for our long-term water resources. We invest in water rights, we invest in wells. That was clearly not the case now. So we need to go back, take a step back, go back to the drawing board, and look at all of your options for additional water. In a nutshell, there may be others, but in a nutshell, you've got shallow groundwater, got deeper groundwater. Maybe you sell your shallow groundwater rights and you go and you try to find more deeper groundwater. You've mostly allocated your current deeper aquifer water rights. So shallow groundwater, deeper groundwater. You could look at acquiring surface water rights from the Yakima River and building a treatment plant. That's not cheap. That's a really expensive project. Or, in the interest of looking at all their options, you look at what would it take to pipe water from another water system, and is there a way to purchase it? None of those options are cheap, right? So that's why the city in the past made the decision to try to pursue the shallow groundwater option. But if this second well doesn't work, if it doesn't have the water you need, that's when you need to say, okay, take a step back, look at the big picture. Let's evaluate all of our options again and decide how we're going to get more source water by the needs of the city. So certainly is a very frustrating outcome to this first well drilling project. It's not what anyone had hoped for. The good news, if there can be, is that you are spending grant right now, and so this is no financial impact on the city's ratepayers. This is all a grant. So I think that's the sum. So it's timeline. Yeah, great question. So the goal all along was we don't drill the second well until we have the water quality sample results for the first one, because if we're gonna have a water quality issue, we don't want to drill 2 wells with a water quality issue. So today, the water quality sampling occurred a couple weeks ago. We're starting to get the results today. We don't have all of the information yet. So the goal be over the next few weeks, hopefully we get most of the results from the lab. We can evaluate what we're seeing at that well, see if any, what impact it would have on the next well selection. At that point, we would tell the driller to start, and then it would be a matter of when they can schedule a drill rig. Drillers tend to be booked a little bit. They've worked with us, we've worked with them, so hopefully they can be here fairly soon to continue drilling this second well. The other piece of it is that if we've already approved with Department of Health the location of the second well, the currently planned location of the second well. If we need to move that, we want to move that, then that would be a conversation that needs to happen with Department of Health to document sanitary control area and how we protect that well in the future. And that's very doable for us to have that conversation, but that approval would still need to happen prior to authorizing the driller to go start the drilling process. I would won't give you worst case scenarios with drillers. Drillers are backed up. Goal would be that the driller out there if we gave him authorization. While once it's drilled, then we have to gather more information, the actual information from the drilling. So then that's why he's off site for a while. They will come back and put the screen and the casing in, pump test it, get the water quality. It'd be like hoping this well had just gone really well, and fortunately that put a pause on. And so we'd be looking at in the spring then, once you have the pump, assuming this goes well, right? They're saying, great, we have 200 gallons, 100 gallons in. Say, all right, that's worth equipping. And then we can start the process. We'll design the pump and motor. We'll put that out to bid. You have to bid that, and then through next summer, then they're constructing the improvements to try. Expiration date of next April 2025, and so we're counting back from there. And so that's why we kind of have to move on all this, because we're counting back from there. You bid the drilling in the spring, but the driller couldn't be out there for several months, right? Drillers are super busy right now. Everybody wants wells, and so that's why we tried to get it out on the street. We bid it in the spring. Driller is able to come in the fall. This is taking more time now because of the issues, but we have that April of 2025 date in the back of our mind, and we're counting back to what is it going to take if the well drilled and still be able to have it equipped to meet the deadline.
Worst case scenario is if you guys do approve the drilling of the second well, and that well doesn't pan out, you have to buy support on the cost on both of those wells.
Well, at this point, that's all grant.
Okay.
So the funding agency buys. That's where then we'll have to have a conversation with the funding agency. Say, look, we shouldn't spend any more money here. This isn't working.
You were saying something about moving it closer over to well 5, but wasn't well 5 an issue before?
Oh, well, and that's where I want to be clear here. When we say next to, we're talking about the surface.
Yes.
Under the surface, these wells aren't close to each other at all. This guy, well 5, the salt starts at about 136 feet. So our well would only be 2 down. The new well would only go down to 136 feet. While well 5 is 400 to 500 feet. And it's while they're next to each other on the surface, the actual buckets of water they're pulling from are different.
What do these specialists recommend?
The hydrogeologist.
Right now, it seems like it's all guessing.
Oh, it is. And that is the geology. Given the way the city's well 6, the way that turned out, there is not a lot of water in some of the deeper aquifers, right? That was hoped that would be a significant producing well. It wasn't. And so that's part of why the city pivoted to say, okay, there's not a lot of water available in some of the deeper aquifers. Let's try the shallow aquifers. Project is now well 5. That's why it's the biggest producer, and that's the city's best. And so they were hoping, okay, we go a couple blocks to the west and we drill well 6. should also have similar, quantity of water, but there isn't. It's a different, there's a discontinuous aquifer, something's different there, and there was not much water there. The water that was had a ton of sand. And so by the time we eliminated the sand, it greatly reduced the amount of water that was being produced in well 6.
And that's another problem. You hit water or you hit a lot of sand. If you hit a lot of sand, you're just gonna ruin the pumps.
Yep.
Ruin them up.
I know, absolutely. And that's why it's a frustrating circumstance we put in, because it feels like there are no good options, right? Another alternative is buy your water from another city or build a surface water treatment plant. And that's probably talking 20 million just to start the conversation there. And that, that's a whole, it's like your wastewater treatment plant, you'd be building a whole nother one just for potable water with higher level of treatment. I'm just
doing this long ago. What do you recommend?
Our recommendation, and this is the hydrogeologist's recommendation as well, is that the city proceed with drilling the second well. You have a grant funding for 2 bites at the apple. So let's take the second bite. Hopefully you'll get water. If you don't take that chance, you're sure not to get any more water.
I understand that next year's gonna be a big drought, supposedly.
Sure.
So if you drill a well, that's not gonna be big enough to sustain the usage of water here within the community, then what's the purpose?
Right now, we just are finishing the city's water system plan. Right now, the city has the water quantity that we need for now, but there's not a lot of room for growth. And so the goal for this well was it would allow the city, these different developments and people that want to come in, that you would have that opportunity to grow. What really helps the city in those droughts and those really hot days is the fact that you have 2 reservoirs online. And so where the city has a shortage of source capacity, you have an extra surplus of storage capacity. And so on those days where the wells just can't keep up, it's the hottest day of summer, everybody's using water and filling their swimming pools. The city's wells can't keep up on those hottest days, but you have so much storage sitting there in the reservoirs that you keep those reservoirs full. They supplement, and then you have to catch them up over the next several days. And that's what helps get the city through the summer right now is that you have the extra storage. But ultimately, that's not what we'd like, right? And that's why it's been a long process to get this project funded and to find grants for the city, mostly grants, some loans for the city to pay for these wells. And it's just obviously very frustrating for everyone involved that the aquifer just is not bearing what reasonable hydrogeological assessment would tend to pay.
See, because I'm a true believer in climate change.
Mhm.
And I tend to think the summer's only get hotter from now.
Doesn't seem like we've had
There's
some
no way
awful,
around it.
Yeah.
There's no way around it.
feels like there've been some awful hot summers recently. Yeah.
So you guys are hoping that if you can get 100 gallons per minute, that would be your minimum rate. You go below 100, it's not even worth it. It's not going to be enough.
Yeah, I mean, if I were you, or if I were the city, I would think about equipping a well if we got 50 to 100.
Yeah.
When you get under, like this one is at 20, especially with poor water quality. That's the other thing. If it's really good water, then it's maybe worth it. But if it's poor water quality on top of not very much, then it starts to maybe not be worth the cost.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Even if you go 100, it's not even worth it because it's just going to be a waste of money. Like you can think somewhere else and hope for something better. Where eventually, hopefully, with the years, it pays itself off.
Right.
But if it's not going to pay itself off, then why even bother?
That's where once.
And I understand we need the water.
Yeah.
We gotta have it, but
No, it's a.
it's best to get better testing. From the geologists.
Oh, well, so I can explain the process they take. Ultimately, they're looking at the well log. So every well that's drilled, the driller has to write down each different geologic strata he encounters, and if he pump tests it, all the information about it, and he files it with the state. So when you go to drill another well, what you do is you say, okay, let's pull the well logs for every other well that's been drilled around here, right? So they look at the city's existing wells, and that's how they get an idea of the strata. So the indications are there was some water there, right? There are houses on wells. The thing is, the well to provide a house's water versus a city's water, it's a lot different amount of water. So if this well was just for a house, yeah, it'd be a fine well, but we need a lot more water to come out of it. And that's where the idea from our hydrogeologists, okay, what did we learn from this first well? Maybe we're not going to put a pump in it, so that's protected as a waste. What else did we learn from it? Well, we learned there's not that much water in that particular aquifer, and there are water quality issues. Okay, let's try to move. We're gonna drill a second well. Let's try to move a ways away from that well, so that we learned there's not very good water and poor water quality. So let's try to move further away from that. And that's where some of their sampling had indicated that water more north and more east tended to have better water quality. So we have to stay within the confines of the city's transmission main. We only have certain areas approved through the environmental process with the funding agencies and the tribes. But like, let's do what we can to slide in there, more and more north and more east.
And if Matthew was to sell their water rights, what did he sell it to? Would that go up for public auction or what?
So there'd be a few issues with that if you did. First of all, water rights were purchased with grants from USDA already. So the first thing would be to have a conversation with them to say, hey, you gave us money to buy these. Are we even allowed to sell them? I think you'd have to make the argument that if this well doesn't work, they're not useful to us. You gotta let us sell them. At that point, there's like a Craigslist type website for water rights purchases. There are consultants that specialize in that. They frequently have bugs in the areas for buyers that are interested, and they would look for a buyer locally or in the area that they could transfer that to. With the idea being, then the city would use that capital to purchase a different water right for maybe the deep basalt wells or some other aquifer. And that's where we have, if the city went that route, we would have some special consultants because water rights law is its own very unique business. And so we would look at what would it take, what would be the market to sell it, and then how would the city sort of set aside that money then and start the process of looking for other water rights, right? Because that's the thing is deep basalt well water rights, you have to be somebody that wants to sell it, right? And it's all driven by the market, and it's a very valuable commodity. Yeah. The new well it was drilled, yes.
Around there, are they aware of things like this? Is that something that belongs to?
They will not. That will go in the hydrogeologist's report on the well. Most of the people that live in that area would be on city water. So this well isn't serving city water. If it were serving city water, we work with Department of Health and set up either a treatment or some sort of blending program so that by the time it reached any tap, it would be below the state limit. No, and given the water quality and the quantity, most likely no. But if it did, we would set up a blending program so that it would be, by the time it reached any taps, it would be under the state limit. Yeah.
But if that's the case, then the test don't come back positive in a good way. So that will be kept up.
Yes.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
So we're gonna go ahead and, we're gonna stay on B. We're just gonna, put, B2, for Andres Cervantes, to come up and, talk to us about some issues as well with water. Issues, our meeting.
So I'm Andres Cervantes. I'm with the Office of Drinking Water. I work out of Spokane, specifically with public water systems. So I have been working with Joe and your mayor, your consultants on your guys' water system. So, I mean, there was some mention about samples that were taken and paid for by Ecology. Those samples happen to be, what I understand from Damon Roberts, who is the ecology lead, they were the full-blown inorganic chemical analysis for each of the 3 wells, 3 of your guys' sample sites, and the booster station. When I was taking a look at your guys' distribution system, it is obvious that we need to get the wells tested for the inorganic chemicals to find out what was going in there. It's the naturally occurring chemicals that are in the basalts. You're looking at things that compete with the disinfection and the chlorine. So the iron, the manganese, the hydrogen sulfide and stuff, which is creating the smell in the water, is not one of those. But it was one of those that I asked for also. But we needed to find out what was going on in the wells. I chose the booster station because the booster station follows your reservoirs. All 3 of your wells, 4, 6, and 5, and they are in that order, pump into a common main, and then they go straight into the reservoirs, and then you guys have a treatment system on top of your reservoirs. So the booster station is actually a common point where all the water's been mixed and treated, and you can find out, okay, what's going on in there. So by taking samples out of the wells and then taking it after the treatment system, you can see, is that system efficient? And if it's not, then what can you do to enhance that treatment system? The other thing is, when I looked at your guys' distribution system, you have 6 sample stations. that are plumbed into PVC pipes that are out there in their mains. You have 2 on the north side, 2 on the central, and then 2 on the south. And so I chose the sample sites that were closest to your guys' cast iron lines, because if anything's gonna get caught up, it's gonna be the cast iron, because it's more rough on the inside. So I said, let's choose these 3 sites and let's see what's going on in there. So if there's not a lot going on in the wells and the system is working great, then you should see nothing out in the distribution system. If you've got a lot of hydrogen sulfide, iron, manganese going on in the wells, it's coming out in the booster station and it's coming out in your sample stations, then there's an inefficiency, and that's what I was looking for. It's either good or it's bad. Now what do we need to do? One of the other things I had done is looking at your guys' distribution system and talking to Joe is, how are you guys flushing? Because a lot of these systems, and that was the other thing, and I know I missed it, but hydrogen sulfide was one of the things that was taken out of the wells and the sample stations. And Aeromonas was the other one that was taken out. The coliform stuff has been taken out by your guys' operators on a regular basis. So it's not showing up in your distribution system. It's working with the chlorine. And he had taken samples from the wells already. So it's like, let's not do that when you guys already have enough of that. But I did ask for the Aeromonas because that came up as a topic once. I said, well, if you brought it up, I'm going to make you sample for it. And then the hydrogen sulfide, which is typical of the rotten egg smell, something else I wanted to see. It's pretty well documented that in your wells that methane is one of your guys' issues. So Tootie can tell you about the explosion in your guys' oldest reservoir. That was really the methane that had built up, and a spark just blew that thing off. So I didn't see any point in taking that one. The other thing was the flushing program that you guys had. And what I had proposed is a unilateral, or it's a unidirectional flushing program. You've got all your stuff coming into the middle of town, and then it kind of goes north and south. You've got a big producer on consumer on the south side. You got a big consumer on the north side. So I said, let's get the water clean in the center, and then choose the north or south side to start the next part. So you take that water that's going in the center that's fresh, and then you move it out into the top part of town, and then you flush it out at the end. So your hope is that you're scouring those lines and you're taking that sediment and all that stuff, the gases that are building up, and just getting out of it. What they had been doing in the past was going here and then going in the middle and then going out in a little bit, and the water was just kind of going back and forth, and you're not really getting a nice clean flush. But when you start at the center and then you go down to the south side, move the water that way, and then you clean the center out, then you go to the north side, you're kind of getting a nice clean base. And when you guys have those problems with iron, which is the rusty color, manganese, which can give you the black, and then the hydrogen sulfide, which gives you that rotten egg smell, you got to do something with your distribution system, and you've got to just freshen the water up. So it's not something that you could just sit there and decide, okay, I'm going to forget about it this year. Okay. No, you probably need to do it once or twice a year. I have water systems and it's really bad, and they're doing it once a month. So it's like, you know what, maybe you should be a little bit more on top of it. And it's like, get a program that you guys like, stay on top of it, and then let's see how things flush out.
You're talking about fire hydrants, right?
Yes, there is.
And they did start this week flushing.
They did, and Joe said that he had gotten zone 1
2 and
was
3.
the north side, zone 2, which is central, and then zone 3, which is the south side. So the map I sent you has those zones, and it's north, central, and south.
Yeah.
What's your procedure in flushing? What is it? Is it like an hour long? Is it a couple hours?
It's a process.
It's a process.
Yeah,
So
it's
You
not
know,
a one day thing.
no, it's not a one-day thing.
It's a process.
There's a couple things you want to take a look at, and that is you want to identify the areas where you're having the problems, and you want to identify the pipes you want to hit. And then what you want to do is, how am I going to get the water from here out towards the end? Now you're selecting your hydrant so that you can just travel the water around. And then what you want to do is, do I need to shut valves off so I can isolate these certain pipes and scour them a little better? Once you've done that, then you go out and you tell the people that you're doing it, because the important part is you don't want them to run their taps when you are flushing, because that will bring all whatever sediment that you're stirring up, and it'll bring them into their houses. So you want to let them know that, hey, I'm going to be on this street. Don't turn on your taps. Wait until I go by, or wait until tomorrow and then get the fresh water in your houses. So does it take an hour? You're looking at setup, and then you're looking at hydro flushing. You're looking at the water quality that's coming out of that hydrant. So is it going to take 20 minutes? Is it going to take half an hour? Is it going to take 10? It really just depends on what's in the pipes and built up. So if you've got a nice dark black mass coming out, you don't stop flushing. You keep on going until the water is crystal clear. So it all depends on the system. Methane is something that was found earlier. So my assumption is it's still there. It's coming from the ground, coming from the salt. It's a natural.
It's just a natural gas.
So Andres, my question is, are we the only community that has this?
No.
So this is common in other communities?
It's common in the communities that have the basalt, like Jamin was talking about the water quality changes depending on where it's at. So some of them have it, some of them don't. Some of those communities in a line will have the same issue. It's just, are you tapping the same one? And sometimes it just doesn't show up. It's, you know, it's a pocket here, it's a pocket there. You guys.
Because
get a
right now,
pocket.
there is no odor in the water. And at home, City Hall doesn't have the odor. I don't,
It's nothing like it was in. the
yeah, and I knew it, and we've always had this when it gets hot, it does tend to smell,
It's,
and this year was worse.
you know what I'm saying, the ground, probably, whether it gets cold, or water, goes up, and when it's really hot, water goes down.
Yeah.
So,
And then the
sooner the water is deep, smells getting worse and worse.
Your guys' wells, Coach Taman says 400 feet, but your wells are 700 feet. So there's a lot of insulation out there. The change in the temperature and how much you guys use the water is what's happening once that water is taken out. It really doesn't change. I mean, you look at the water temperature coming out, and it's a flat line. So the surface water ones that I do deal with, they will have a tendency to rise and climb. The higher in the Earth zone, you know, the higher up they are to the surface, the more tendency that the heat's going to react with it in the cold. So you'll see this shift in the temperature. But down in the basalt, it's usually pretty much a flat line. But once you've gotten it out, I mean, it's the air temperature, it's the air pressure, all that stuff. It's like, you know, gases, colder, less pressure, that stuff just wants to come out. So when it's hotter, and you guys are using more water, you're not giving it a chance to come out. It's just going straight to you guys. But in the wintertime, when you guys aren't using so much, it's just sitting there in the reservoir and it's just off gas. And you guys have those blowers up there that are taking that stuff out.
I mean, I haven't had the odor for like at least 3 weeks. I think since it's really come down.
That's.
It's been long.
And so I have been here since mid-October, I think. And I went through, had them do their chlorine residual tests, and then out of the sample stations, did the first draw sniff as well as just taste. And I didn't see anything. Your guys' bathroom, I just did the same thing. So I did have to go, but I did do that first draw, and I did both the cold water and the hot water, and there really wasn't a smell. There is kind of a metallic taste that I can feel.
The smell's pretty much gone away.
Yeah.
It's not, nothing like it was during the summer. During the summer, you had the brown looking water, you had the smell was really bad. I mean, you're talking real bad. Right now you don't have.
I think this year was the worst. I mean,
The water's cleared up, the smell's pretty much gone, but that's not to say they ain't gonna come back, because it's gonna come back.
so I
It
guess,
comes back every year.
Andres, is the water good to drink? That's my
You
next
guys
question.
are in compliance with all your drinking water samples
Okay.
and the contaminant levels.
Because of the situation that we're in with this water thing, would you recommend a flush quarterly? Just because of the way it is here, because of the situation that we're in.
You know, without having those sample results,
Sorry to say.
it's hard to say. I mean, you guys should be doing it at least twice a year. So, you know, before the summer starts and when it ends.
You're talking spring and fall,
spring
give
and
or
fall,
take, yeah,
at least,
instead of
Um,
once a year.
instead of once a year.
Yeah.
If you guys get it clean enough and you feel like, you know what, this is acceptable, then back off. If you're finding that, no, we're getting still a lot of odor, then do one in the middle of the summer.
And I know that the guys have been out quite a bit during the summer. I know we get, residents coming in, complaining about the water. So I know the girls would put, job orders in for flushing. So they were, flushing quite a bit and I'm like, we cannot be flushing the lines like that. Cause that was my understanding, not to flush as much. And I knew it was twice a year. So, and you just confirmed that again, they were doing it. I mean, twice a week at some spots. And it's like, oh yeah, no, that's too much.
That's a lot if you don't have a plan.
Mhm.
And if you're just going spot to spot without taking a look at where your complaints are going and say, you know what, I have a hot spot over here. I'm gonna move the water out of there. But if you're just going, I'm going to the north side, I'm going to the south side, I'm going central, whatever. Then it's kind of like, I'm chasing a ghost. And
Yeah.
That's not what you want to do.
And I'm glad that you were able to come in and meet with us and let us know, hey, we have a map we need to follow. Because my understanding, Joe said he was never taught that way. He said that the former person that was here, that was in charge of them, showed him how to do it, and that's the way he told you. And you're like, nope, that's not the way we do it. We need to start from the middle and push outward. And I'm like, Joe, I thought that's how you were actually doing it. That would be just common sense, I think, as well.
You don't want to change it up. You don't want to flush out the same line all the time.
No,
You know,
but
you want
it's
to rotate them around.
Mhm.
but it's a unidirectional flushing
Yeah.
system where, and a lot of it is yeah, you're pushing the water in one direction to get it out of the system. That's the intent. The first part is to have your plan set and say, this is how I'm gonna go through. And then telling the public that this is what I'm doing and these are your guys' expectations. And this is how you don't do any damage to your homes
Be consistent.
and be consistent. And then go out and do your flushing. And yeah, the more people you have helping out, the easier it is, and it'll take time if you don't.
They went and handed out flyers on doors. Yeah, they were out last week handing out flyers. And they went in to all the residents. So, I put it on a website and I believe we put it on our city website. I'm correct. So yeah,
What I was told is there was door hangers put out
yes.
and that the big sign up here
Mhm.
was advertising.
Yeah, the door hangers were put out. And I know that the girls made out a big, bunch of copies and the guys were out last week, so.
As time goes on and they do this more often, chances are they'll just get better at it and not miss spots. But if you do miss it, if they get their website up and running, there's one place.
Yeah.
The sign up there is another. I don't know what to tell you.
You said that the compliance with the water, is that with the results that you have now, or does that factor in the results you're still waiting for from the sampling you just conducted?
The routine monitoring that they have to do, they're in compliance. So they are sampling when they're supposed to, and those levels will come out. These samples are investigative, so they wouldn't be routine. So
Right. So we're still waiting on those.
we're still waiting on those. But I don't do compliance on investigative samples, unless they're really bad. But as far as, are they sampling like they're supposed to, and are their samplings coming out clean? And that answer is yes.
I can understand that during the winter, it's gonna be tough to flush these lines out. That's why you suggest during the spring and fall, that we don't have to worry about it being over. That would be the ideal way to do it.
It is the ideal, it is the ideal way to do it. You don't want a skating rink.
Yeah.
So, it's,
But I remember they would flush, back in the day, they would flush the lines out on a regular basis. Cause they used to flush the hydrant in the back of my house along the street. And we'd see it do it all the time. And we knew that once they were doing that, careful, because when you turn your faucets on, you're spitting out a lot of air, just to let them refill those lines. Yeah, so, I mean, they were doing it on a regular basis.
And then you've got the sediments. You've got to take the screens off, otherwise you just plug it. So there's a lot of different things that you need to pay attention to. And if you want to get rid of a lot of your taste and odor, you got to flush the hot water tank. It's just, okay.
Well, that's one of the problems here in Methven is that our water is so hard that we end up with a lot of sediment in the bottom of our water heaters.
I don't know what to tell you. I shop vac and I take off the heater, whatever they call those. I take out the elements and I vacuum out the calcium. I hear you. It's a useful can.
Well, thank you, Andres. I appreciate it. So, I see Chris McCord, you're online. Good evening. Good evening, Chris. There.
Good evening. Sorry, I'm driving home from the coast, so I've been listening in.
Okay. Well, I saw you online and I just wanted to see if you wanted to add anything to this. I know we've been talking, you and I, so you want to go ahead and say something?
Yeah, I think so. My name's Chris McCord. I'm with the Department of Commerce. Used to work with Andy Cervantes at Department of Health and Drinking Water. And I have been working with the mayor, with Andy, with Department of Ecology and others, as there have been, some concerns about water and the need for bottled water. And so I was approached back in, I think it was August initially, to try and track down opportunities to bring water if needed to the community. And I believe we've got some more water coming if needed. We'll figure out what the conditions are there before we place the order. But there's a nonprofit in Colorado who actually provides water to communities in situations like this, if needed. And they're prepared to send a semi-load of water out in early December. They had some. They actually work with breweries that can water. So the name of the nonprofit is Canned Aid. And they prefer to put cans into the environment versus plastic bottles. And so they had a little malfunction at the brewery where they get the water canned with their equipment, and they were several weeks behind. And so we'd anticipated to get water brought to the community prior to the Thanksgiving holiday, but it looks like it'll be early December before we can get more. And again, that's if it's determined to be needed. That's about all I've got.
I think we're pretty good. We'll go ahead and we'll take the last of the water. But other than that, verification tonight that I think we're good on water with this last vote, so we will no longer be needing water for our residents. Unfortunately, it has not been distributed evenly to a lot of the residents here. I know we've gotten a lot of phone calls. I know some council members have gotten phone calls that they did not get water. I know we have council candidates that also reached out to me because they were notified that they were not given any water at this last water distribution. So when we get this last water distribution from you, Chris, we'll make sure that the city goes out from house to house and distributes this water evenly to everybody who pays water. Unfortunately, it's been given to the same families, and people have been turned away. And I think that with this last water that you give, this should be the fine line for the citizens. And I want to thank you for that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for chiming in. I appreciate it. So we're going to go ahead and move on to C, approval of MAPTN G&O, the CPX tribe troubleshooting. Go ahead and start on C.
So, well, 6, excuse me. We talked about in the study session had an issue with the electrical. Our electrical engineers recommended not just resetting and trying again, but it was the type of fault was when doubt. They contacted the manufacturer of electrical equipment. We provided a quote for you guys. And so this is the cost to have the manufacturer electrical equipment come troubleshoot. Hopefully fix whatever caused the error. Back online. So pretty straightforward.
Okay, so I can get approval on that for the approval of the city of Mapton for G and O to CPX Drive, the troubleshooting. Have a motion by Diana,
I second the motion.
second by Ann, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. We're gonna go ahead and go on to D, the approval of the Vision desktop replacement recommendations for the city of Mapton. So this is gonna be what Larry filled us in on earlier, updating our computers. So if I can get a motion on this. I have a motion by Diana,
I second the motion.
second by Ann, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We're gonna go ahead and go on to E, discussion of resolution 2023-19, a resolution approving the law enforcement assistance agreement between the city of Mapton and Yakima County Sheriff's Office for the communication service for 2024. So this is something that we talked about in the study session. We just need to see if we can get a resolution for this.
D, that's for the computers,
Yes, let's see.
on the computers?
Fine.
Fine. That's what for the police department too?
No,
Not for the
no,
police
no,
department?
they just got updated on their laptops. So it's just completely for the city.
For the city.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were saying that you could.
Do you need some?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the cars no. So we are gonna need to add nine. Yeah, 9 total. So we're gonna need an approval. So we might, should we?
Are the 4 that you have, are they 2020 or newer? Do you know? Because if they are, then they don't need replacement. Okay,
And then what we can do, Chief, is we can put it on the next council.
okay.
On the agenda. Okay. So if we can
Every
get-
dollar counts. everyone.
we can get an approval for that, a motion. No, not on that one, I'm sorry, on the discussion of the resolution for approving the law enforcement assistance agreement. I have a motion by Diane,
I second the motion.
second by Ann, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and go on to F. Discussion of resolution 2023-20, a resolution approving the interlock correction detention agreement with Yakima County for 2024. So that was something that the chief discussed at 6 o'clock meeting, so we just need an approval and a motion. Motion by Diane,
I approve the motion.
second. Second,
Second the motion.
have a second by Ann, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. So we're gonna go ahead and go on to G, discussion of ordinance 2023-1182, an ordinance establishing the amount of taxes to be lived upon real and personal property with the city of Mapton, and also fixing the tax levy rate for the 2024 calendar year. So we were gonna go ahead and if we can all agree to the 1%. Yeah. A motion by Diana,
Second the motion.
second by Antonio, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We're gonna go ahead and go on to H, discussion of the preliminary budget for 2024. Any questions on that? Okay, so can I get a motion? I have a motion by Diane,
Second the motion.
second by Antonio, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay. So, we're gonna go ahead and go on to visitor comments. You want to stand up to the podium? We have 2 minutes. Really?
All right, well, let's clarify a few things. If anybody at our water distribution event were tonight, it's because they didn't have the proper information, which is basic, proof of residency within city limits, city wells, and ID. Other than that, nobody is denied at our water distribution. And for more clarification, we have brought to this area 4 different water distribution events totaling almost 60 pallets of water. That's over almost 3,000 big flats of water for residents. So according to, well, I talked to you, brought 5 pallets into the city. So yeah, thank you. Just to clarify that. And I want to clarify something else. We were the ones who first started talking to Chris McCord about bringing water in from canned aid. The city, who you apparently don't think you all need water, you called them up and said, we need to get in on this too. So you don't think you need water, but you're tapping into this resource, which is fine, because whatever will bring water to the residents is great. However that's brought, that's wonderful. One other point of clarification. The reason that investigative water sampling is happening is because of a community listening session that EYA organized. This investigative research for water quality came about through that listening session, which you were invited to, which you would not attend. Last, we have another listening session, community update, provided to community residents tomorrow at 5:30. You all are invited, including the councilor elects, the ones who have been newly elected to their seats. So again, you're in touch with community so that your community knows what's happening. I'm really disappointed because we've usually had a pretty full house here in previous meetings, and they're not here, so they have to be communicated with somehow about all of the information that was provided tonight. It'll happen tomorrow. And so we're inviting all of you guys to attend to provide community update.
Your time is up.
As officials.
Your time is up. Anybody else?
It's- I want to back her up on what's been going on as far as the water distribution. We've been doing it. And people aren't being denied. The lines are all the way to the end of the street over here. So people are aware what they gotta bring, ID, bill, to get their water. There's nobody being denied. I don't know who these fakers are that are saying, got turned down and stuff. You know what? Come and talk to me and I'll let you know if you got turned down or not, because I haven't turned down anybody. Neither have these ladies here. They haven't turned down anybody. The people that are getting water delivered to their houses are senior citizens or people that ain't able to go to drive or show up in line and get their water. So we literally take it to their doorsteps and drop it off. And they are very thankful that we're doing that. And like I say, hey, you know what? We can put you on the list if you want. All you gotta do is just give us your name. Who? Is she on the list? You gotta be on the list. We've told people, if you can't drive, or if you're handicapped, or you're an elderly, give us your name, give us your address, we will deliver the water to you. So your mom, all she's gotta do is give us her name, her address, and we'll take her water. That's not a big deal. This is what we've been doing. So people that are saying that they're being denied, that's not true. I hate to say it, but that's not true. I think they're just trying to start something. And it's not fair to us. It's not fair to these ladies that have put their butts off to get this thing going. And now that it's going, everybody is thankful for it. I mean, I have people tell me, oh, thank you very much. Really, really appreciate it. Hey, no problem. Here you go. Here's your water. So let's not go with the gossip. Let's not believe everything you hear, because it's not true. There's a lot of us here that can verify that nobody's being denied.
Ruben, I think that's at the last meeting, you came up and you started listening to rumors as well. And, you sat over there and, well, I heard, you know, that you have a new officer. So you yourself have listened to rumors. So, you know, and we made clarification and the chief did, he clarified it the last meeting, because you came at me and said, well, I heard. Well, there you go. You hear things, we're getting text messages, they're calling City Hall. So I'm just relaying what I've heard, Ruben. Okay, so this is coming to the City Hall. So that's the reason I'm
This is
bringing
the
it.
reason I come here, Rachel.
Okay.
This is the reason I come here, Rachel, so I can ask the questions,
Okay.
so you can give me answers. So when you drive your vehicle, there's a mirror like this. Don't look in it. Don't look in the past. Look towards the future.
Okay.
Okay? So don't go by hearsay all the time.
Well, that's exactly what
No,
you did.
no, hold up. Right now what you're doing, you're being combative. You're throwing this in my face because of the way, the things I've said in the past.
Well, you're
No,
just
no,
telling
I'm not
me the
saying
same
that.
right now.
I'm not accusing you. I'm not accusing you. All I'm
Thank
saying
you.
is that there's
Okay.
people that are saying that
Okay.
they're being turned down and we're not nobody down.
Okay. Thank you.
This, I'm not pointing this toward.
Yes, Chris. Thank
Yeah,
you, Ruben.
I want to step in for a second. And Maria, I didn't realize you were in the room. I'm looking at my phone, so I apologize. And I have been approached by the Environmental Justice Council and AYA and have reached out and been working with Mayor Ruelas. And I just want to encourage you all, right? Water is so important. You've already heard tonight that the situation with the new well, and this will divide a community. And the one thing that I am trying to do is take the things that the best lessons learned from both distribution efforts, both the cities and from the food bank, and take what's worked well, what hasn't worked well, and work with your emergency management at the county level. I believe you guys pay in to get service from the emergency management staff. And what I'd like to do is throw a plan together. The community could both, and I say community holistically, could buy into, you know, accept, so there isn't a division. There's no, I get that there is a division, but we've all got to come, and this is the big we have all got to come together on this one to do what's best for your community. And so I just want to encourage me a little bit of time to try and work with emergency management. They've got the best practices. They know, they have a plan there specific for Yakima County about how to distribute resources. And I want to take what AYA has learned, what the city has learned, the food bank distribution, and we'll come up with the best plan possible for your community. So I'm empathetic to everybody's situation there, but I want to deal with the facts. The facts are that we need to be able to provide water to those that are in need of assistance. And so that's, you know, my obligation to you is to assist you in doing that. Thank you.
Come on, Chris. Maybe we ought to sit down and talk, me and you, to come up with the plan.
Okay, so I'm reading your thing up here. It says, please stand here, state your name and address. So my name is Tia Doran. I live out on Decker Road in Outlook. So do not live in this area. And it also says comment is limited to 5 minutes.
We're doing 2.
Okay, may want to update this. Okay, and then, so anyway, so basically I just wanted to remind people that we're having that meeting tomorrow. Everyone's welcome, especially those that are being affected by water. So please share this information. I have flyers if you need to take any with you. You have people you want to invite, please take them and invite them to come. The other thing I wanted to say is when I volunteer my time with AYA and we're standing out there in the cold along with other volunteers trying to get people through the line as fast as possible, I'm going down the line and I'm reminding people that they have to have this and this and this ready, right? Their ID and of course proof of physical address, they live in Mapton. Water bill, light bill, of course, is the most important because it lists the service address. Sometimes they don't have that for whatever reason. If they live in Mapton, they should, right? But, you know, sometimes they have their internet bill that shows the service address. Sometimes they have their cable bill that lists the service address. As long as it has their name that matches the ID, whatever. The other thing I tell them is if they say, well, I don't have it, blah, 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 I give them an opportunity to call home and get a picture of it on their cell phone. We even take that. Sometimes we have going over on the side next to the line while they document. But they do their best to get what we need, okay? A lot of people think that the water is coming from the city of Mountain, but of course we explained to them, no, it's not the city of Mountain that's providing this water. And I do remind them also, if they're senior citizens, I do tell them, we do have an opportunity to have water delivered to you. Okay, so if you want that information, let us know, so that way you can put on that list. And that's all I wanted to share. It depends on the family size. They usually get 2 packages, a package, not 2 bottles. Okay, so that's a good question. Okay, so
They're fighting.
That's why I asked, yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
not wanting to do that because we want to distribute fairly to everybody who deserves to have water. But stuff like that does happen, which is why we're trying to make sure that the process is, one, as fair as possible, but also that there aren't people coming in multiple times. We've had residents from Sunnyside, from Prosser trying to come in and with old IDs from Mountain.
exactly.
So, yeah, and sometimes it's just been luck, like Sophia's been there and she's like, oh, no, that's way out in the country. They can't have water. So we have to have, some of you all there to help us distinguish who really should be getting the water.
And that's why we ask for physical proof.
Yeah, there's people coming through trying all the time to
All
get
the
water, and we're trying to prevent that from happening. But yeah, you're right. Stuff like that does happen. They probably sent in multiple people. We also have multiple lists from, thankfully with Adriana and Janet, who go with many different volunteers on their trucks loaded with water to deliver the water. And then we found that those people who had water delivered are coming through the line too. And so,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of stuff happening that we're trying to prevent so that we have more water for more people.
So you're not stamping them.
What we do is we keep track, the laptop, and we keep track of the families that are coming through. And so if they've already come through once, it's on the list already. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and go on to staff reports. You have anything? Chief? Okay. Council member report. Are you there, Bill? Can you hear
Yeah,
us?
yeah, I'm here. I didn't hear you say my name. There's been questions about whether the city would reduce water bills, and the only ordinance that refers to that is Mabton Code 1304-465, which talks about rate reductions for qualified senior citizens and low-income disabled citizens. So that's the only legal authority that the city has over not charging people their usual water bill.
Yeah, that has been in place, before me, and I know that I did, when we did have a lot of citizens in the meeting at one time, we did announce it. I did let people know that there is a discount for senior citizens. There's a form that has to be filled out and they have to bring verification. Now, all that form has all the information. So that form that we go by, has been in existence for a while. So, I know we have, been told that there is senior citizens that come in, but they do have families living with them, sons, daughters, granddaughters. So those are the ones we do turn away because of the income. And there's more people in the household. So those are the ones that do get turned away. We're moving on. I'll give you his information, okay? And you can
No, it's just real quick.
It's already 9 o'clock. We want to move on. We want to move on, please. So that's what we have, Bill. That's what we do with the water for the senior citizen and disability.
The water, I thought it was just started.
No, it's the water.
You know,
Yeah.
You don't have a policy.
It's for the water bill, yes. Yeah, it's on the application. It says disability.
It's gotta be combined income, either two spouses.
Well, yeah, it has to be spouse. You can't have like people living in your household, like a daughter and a son. It has to be for those people only, and it states on that application.
Yeah, but you still got a combined income, you said.
Yes, but if they're elderly and they're getting
If one of
social
the spouses
security,
is- they're disabled,
yes, they,
You still go with the combined income,
but they're,
which makes that person unqualified for the discount.
no, if they're elderly and one is disabled, and well, they're both elderly and one is disabled, they do qualify. So like, for instance, we have an applicant for say, the wife has a mother, or it's a husband and a wife and they're over age 65. Then we ask for their verification. Well, then they go on and we have a disabled son and then we have the mom. Well, we need to say, okay, well, you have income for all these people. So they would not qualify because there's 4 people getting 4 checks in one household.
So if the two spouses and one spouse is still employed and the other spouse is disabled, how do they qualify?
We go by the disabled,
You go by the disabled what?
income, because we have to, we can't discriminate.
Okay, and so what's the discount?
5%?
10%
I
of the
don't know
bill?
what it's not very much. Is it 20?
So then why even offer it?
Well,
What kind
because
of discount is that?
it's been in effect even before me. So it's just to help the seniors. That was something that was in place. I don't know how long it's been.
Why don't you guys revise it and make it beneficial to the person that qualifies for it? Because a 5% discount.
No, it's not 5%. I think she said 20%.
Even 20% is nothing,
Well,
especially when you're paying $100.
well, that's what the
140
percentage
for
was
your water bill.
when I came on. We go by what the paperwork
So can
says.
you revise?
Oh,
Can the
I'm sure
council
we-
members go over this and revise that policy?
We can, but I know we've been in trouble with auditors already regarding water.
That's what he's here for. He's the lawyer. He's the one that's.
Yeah. Exactly, but go through the auditors, and when we get audited, they ask why there is adjustments.
That's what he's here for. So he gives you guys advice on what to do.
Exactly, but he's
You
gonna
shouldn't
tell
worry
us
about
we're
it.
still gonna get audited.
You
We're
shouldn't
gonna-
worry about the other, because if he's the lawyer, he'll advise you in the right way on how to go upon this.
the city's been in trouble with the auditors already. And I wanna say it's been before the last mayor.
I don't think it's gotten
This
trouble.
policy that you guys have right now for your water discount, it's not beneficial.
There was bills that the city billed wrong to all of us senior citizens that we had to pay because of the gifted funds. So I ended up owing something like $1,200. And I
I
had to
think
pay.
Diana ended up paying like
I
7.
think most of us. That, I think.
No, but then I think during Mario's days as well, the water bills were like 2 months behind, 3 months, and it was not up to where we should have been. So that's why we have to be careful because the auditors. And I did talk to actually the auditors today, and she says you need to follow your ordinance. If it's in your ordinance, you need to follow it. So we're following it.
20% discount is nothing. You're talking 20 cents on the dollar. Really?
Okay.
No, we're paying
So-
over $110 a
Okay,
month.
Can I,
Go ahead.
You're still paying over $100.
I was gonna bring my phone and read what my mayor wrote about me. But I thought that was a little bit extreme. I can remember it almost word for word in her accusation, which I do not believe was legal, how she got this paperwork. That's my question to you. You put on your site that I had a wreck in the city, which is true. It was on a Sunday, which is true. It was my nephew that was repairing the glass, but that's no different than your cousin working in the city. He got that. He was licensed and bonded. He got it his own for himself. I did not do that. I came here to take the car home because it was Sunday. He was not allowed on city property, which I had mayor's permission to do. So I backed into another city vehicle. Couldn't report it to anybody that day because it was Sunday. Monday, I came in, first thing, went to the city clerk, will not mention names who she was because I'm not supposed to. Had to fill out an affidavit to our insurance listing my license number, what happened, time and all that. I filled out the report, turned it into the city clerk, where it went from there. I offered to pay it out of my own insurance because I am fully covered, which would have covered it. It wasn't brought up at that time. It was brought to the city council at a later time, which our mayor seemed somehow to get into files that I don't think she had the right to do that because she was upset with me because I asked questions about budget to our treasurer, because this is November. You didn't bring up budget to us for months. I didn't know what we were doing. So I talked to Larry. And
He's
I
the
think
person in
that,
charge of the budget.
oh, Rich, come on, quit passing the buck. You're the person in charge of the dang city. So
But he's the one who works on the budget.
What did you write to pull out my file? What did you write?
You know what? No, that file was already there.
But why did you publicize it on your?
Hey,
site?
taxpayer money,
Oh.
the
You know
vehicles,
what?
taxpayer money.
Awesome.
So we're gonna go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 9:03. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Why you throwing Larry under the bus? Why you throwing Larry under the bus? Is that fair to him?